Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with an incredible figure, one that I have been very much so looking forward to and dreading at the same time, because we've got ourselves a new Super Colossal release. This is the Super Colossal Tyrannosaurus Rex, and what is exciting about this is we have a brand new sculpt for the T-Rex, and in my opinion, this is by far the best looking Super Colossal T-Rex that we have had. So it is very, very exciting to have such an incredible looking gigantic T-Rex, but at the same time I've got so many Super Colossals the way it is, it's going to be hard to find room for this one, but when it looks this good, you just have to make room. As far as the box art goes, you can see again Jurassic World Rebirth. We can also see a shot of the T-Rex down in the right hand corner. You can also see a shot up in the upper left hand corner of a child and how large the T-Rex is, though we can very clearly see again it looks pretty big here on the box, and if I turn it around carefully, you can see the back of the box shows off some more images, including the same image we actually saw on the front of the box, and then of course a massive shot of the T-Rex kind of attempting to eat some minis, I guess. So let's go ahead, pop this box open and check this beast out. So as you can see, once you open it up, the T-Rex does come unassembled. We have to put it together ourselves, and that is exactly how it has worked for all of the Colossal figures the entire time they've been released. And just like with the sauropods, I think I'm going to go ahead and review this one unassembled, then we'll put it together and check it out. It just makes it a little bit easier for me. So of course we want to start in the head sculpt, and look at how incredible that head sculpt is. Again, these new Mattel Tyrannosaurs are unquestionably the best Tyrannosaurs that they have released. Obviously, I have only reviewed one so far if you've been following the channel, which is the lab lockdown version, but I can easily say that this is the best version of a T-Rex in the Super Colossal toy range as well. But we can see the skin texture and scale detail looks incredible. There is so much detail here in the face of the T-Rex that honestly, like, it's hard to even pick a certain place to start. There's so much variation to the scales, really impressive, really vibrant detail. These figures are honestly like a repainter's dream come true, because you just have so much detail to work with on this figure. I can only imagine how good this one would look once it's actually painted. And there's a little bit of bulkiness in the neck and throat of these newer Tyrannosaurs, so you could make one incredible male Tyrannosaurus Rex by repainting this, but it would take so long to paint something this huge. I am tempted to try at some point, but you know, finding a place for, again, yet another Super Colossal would be a problem. But we also have, on top of the incredible sculpt, some really nice paintwork here in the face. There's some black tones that move over the top of the head, but then you have this really cool kind of like a light brown or a tan that moves through a large portion of the face, and it's very nice and naturally applied. I think it looks great. We can also see the eye painted with a yellow, given a black pupil. You have a light gray for the lower jaw, and then you've also got a little area here of a brown that shows up, just again adding a little more variation to the lower jaw here as far as the coloration goes. We do obviously have an articulated jaw. Look at how incredibly impressive it looks once the mouth is open. That looks super, super cool. Trying to turn it again to give you guys a shot of the other side of the head as well. But you can really see, again, that is an impressive looking T-Rex sculpt for sure. When we move into the inside of the mouth, you can see the tongue sculpted out, very nicely textured, beautiful pinkish tones in here, and a gorgeous, honestly, gloss coat. Like, that looks very nice and wet, definitely a saliva-like look. We could see the same for the upper side of the inside of the mouth, and then of course a massive tunnel basically back here where you can swallow dinosaur figures. And again, it kind of promotes minis, but you could definitely fit larger figures than minis in there. Obviously we can see the upper and lower jaws both articulate. They're a little stiff right now, but they do both articulate. We also have way better teeth on this figure, which I'm so happy that they've incorporated these much nicer looking teeth with the newer Super Colossals, because they're just going to make them look so much higher quality, especially considering we have the Spinosaurus coming soon as well. But the teeth look absolutely phenomenal. There is even some fine detail within the teeth, and they are, of course, that soft material, so they look sharp but aren't actually sharp. They are painted with a nice light yellow. As we move back into the neck, we do pick up a really nice striping effect. We actually have like a dark brown that follows over the back a little ways, and then you have like a black that kind of stripes down, kind of reminiscent to the way that the Tyrannosaurs look in the new film, or at least as far as the one that we have mostly seen in the trailer. There is word that there might be two, but I guess we have to wait until we see the movie to know for sure. But the detail on the top of the head also looks really good. You've got some nice kind of skin wrinkles and folds and stuff as you move down through the neck, and then of course you have this light gray moving down through the throat. We can see the throat itself. Pretty smooth transition as we lead down, and that tapers away. We have a swivel in the neck, so you have a little extra articulation. It can only go about that far. Same deal again in the opposite direction, but it works pretty nicely. We have some osteoderms that move over the spinal column, as well as a row on each side of the spinal column. That looks pretty cool and a bit different from the previous Tyrannosaurs we've seen in the Jurassic franchise, and also actually I believe different from the lab lockdown version. I think the lab lockdown was lacking those, and that's again more evidence as far as what people have been saying, that there are two Tyrannosaurs in the film, but again we have to wait and see, I guess. But the paintwork looks really good. You see the striping effect continue to move down, and it leads all the way through this portion of the body. The brown does disappear though about midway through the back. As we move through, again the scale detail is absolutely spectacular. There's so much variation, if my camera focuses correctly. So much variation here as far as the type of scales that we see moving down. Again, really vibrant skin texture. I could definitely see painting this one being a real treat. As we move down into the arms, you can see the arms are of course nice and small. We have kind of like larger scales at the top of the arm, becoming finer as we move down. We could see the elbow right there. Of course, arm articulation forward and back. It is a little stiff currently, but works pretty decently. And it looks like we have wrist articulation. Yes, we do. So we have a nice area of articulation in the wrist to swivel, which is a huge plus. And I love the fact that the hands are held and the wrists are held into an actual, correct position. That is a super nice touch for this figure. But if you like that classic kind of goofy looking broken wrist version of the T-Rex, you can move them in that direction as well. But we can see the claws are very nicely sculpted, unfortunately unpainted, but they do have some nice fine detail to them. And then of course we move back here, and this is where the leg will attach. We can see the detail on the underside also looks really nice. Unfortunately, lacking the fine detail as far as the scales go that you would normally see on the underside of a Jurassic Park or Jurassic World T-Rex, but we don't know for sure if the newer ones have that, so it may be a little different. So this could be actually accurate. And then you also have this little kind of compartment here where you can release whatever you decide to swallow with the T-Rex. So we'll go ahead, and I guess before I even bother assembling it, we'll try that out. We swallowed Muldoon previously with a different figure. We might as well send him on that path again. So he is now gone. Our Tyrannosaur has eaten Robert Muldoon, and then he can pop right out of the stomach with no issues at all. Like I said, you could definitely fit some fairly decent sized figures inside the stomach and throat of this one. We also, of course, have the legs, and we can see the detail of the legs looks really good as well. We've got the musculature, the kneecap right there, the calf muscle big and bulging. The detail again is absolutely awesome on this. As you move down, you've got the scoots down the toes, and that really, really looks like a Jurassic Park T-Rex foot sculpt. That is a really nice looking version of a foot sculpt for this, way better than the older ones from Mattel. We can see the claws are also nicely sculpted. They do have some fine detail to them. They're not technically painted. They are colored, again with a dark brownish tone, but just like they've been doing lately, they basically have a piece that goes to the underside. But at the same time that this is kind of like, you look at it and you think, well, that's kind of cheap on their part to not paint them and just kind of create it this way, but at the same time, it sort of makes the foot look muddy, like it would be walking. So that's definitely something that you would expect to see. I'm actually going to move this guy over here. Feels like some of these pieces are kind of drawing the attention of the camera away. And then again, same deal for the opposing side as far as the leg goes. It looks really good as far as the sculpting and everything. We do have an area, I think, of articulation right here. Maybe not, actually. It looks like we should. but it's not moving, so maybe we don't. But obviously we're going to have forward and back leg articulation for the figure. And then we've got the tail, and as you can see, there isn't any paintwork out here on the tail. It's just the greenish tone. It's like a greenish gray. It's a real weird coloration. But as you move out, you can see the osteoderms and stuff. There's also a nice curve to the tail as you lead out there toward the tip. Quite nicely sized tail for the figure, and again, a different style skin texture for the underside that, again, my camera just does not want to focus on for some reason. I don't know why, but it looks pretty good as well. Again, definitely a nice looking tail, but we'll have to wait and see when it's actually on the figure how proportionate it is. There is definitely, I was going to say there's a swivel area out here, but that's like the most useless area of articulation. But it looks pretty good overall. I definitely would have liked to have seen the patterning move out into the tail, but I'm pretty much used to it at this point. So let's go ahead, get this put together, and check it out. So here is our Super Colossal T-Rex now assembled and looking incredible. Man, this is absolutely the best Tyrannosaurus that has ever graced the Super Colossal toy line. The sculpt is phenomenal, and even the feet, although maybe a little bit bulky, are definitely way more proportionate to the rest of the body compared to the older clown feet we had on the Super Colossals previously. So this figure, like, as a whole, is a massive improvement in every way. Of course, there's no paintwork for the dew claw or the hand claws, but outside of that, again, it is an absolutely incredible looking T-Rex, and without a doubt a centerpiece to any Jurassic collection. I really wish they had put the patterning moving out into the tail, but the tail length also looks pretty good if you ask me. Now, as far as a size goes, this one's going to be a little tricky as per usual because it's gigantic, but for a height from the ground to the top of the head, about 13.5 inches or around 34.5 centimeters. As far as a length goes, I don't know if we're going to be able to, nope, the head is way too big. Dropping stuff here. So I tried to get the tail into view all the way, but it's just too big of a T-Rex. So I would say roughly around 39 inches or about 99 centimeters in length, showing you that this is pretty darn huge. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect Day human being, looking nice and tiny down there underneath the T-Rex. And you can very clearly see that this is gigantic as per usual when it comes to the Super Colossals. It also has a little bit of an awkward angle here, making the foot look bigger than it really is, but obviously these are way smaller. But I think the best comparisons we could probably do at this point would be with the other Super Colossals, because you're not really going to get a great comparison here with anything other than other Super Colossals. So let's go ahead, head outside, and we'll get some of those. So as you can see, when we have the two different Super Colossal Tyrannosaurs next to each other, it looks as though the older one might actually be a little bit longer, so maybe slightly larger than the newer one, but the newer one is definitely beefier. You can especially see that when we're up above. You can clearly see that the older one is a little bit longer, but there's definitely some bulkiness to the newer one. And then here we also have a comparison with the Atrociraptor. I don't think we really need many comparisons past this point. Basically, the most important comparison was with the other Colossal T-Rex. But you can see again that this Colossal T-Rex is just a little bit smaller than your usual Colossal Tyrannosaurus. Also, as far as the articulation goes, of course you basically can just articulate the legs forward and back. It goes forward pretty nicely, but seems to only go back about that far, which is kind of surprising. And the tail, again, can go left and right. That's pretty much it. Doesn't have any up and down movement, unfortunately. And if we move the T-Rex to the other side, yeah, the legs are definitely a little bit limited on this side as well as far as the articulation goes. So kind of similar to the recent Spinosaurus, where the articulation is just somewhat limited in the legs. So this brand new Mattel Jurassic World Rebirth Super Colossal Tyrannosaurus Rex is absolutely fantastic if you ask me, and is far and away the best Super Colossal T-Rex that we have had from Mattel so far, especially as far as the sculpt. The sculpt is so gorgeous and by far has the best detail that I have seen on a Super Colossal Tyrannosaur. It also has some nice paintwork. It's not incredible, but does look pretty good, pretty smooth and natural as far as the application goes. I just wish it had a little bit more moving out into the tail, and of course painted claws on the dew claw and hands, but outside of that, the paintwork looks pretty nice and kind of replicates the T-Rex that we've seen in the trailer, but overall, again, the paintwork isn't incredible, but pretty decent. It does, of course, have some fun playability with the fact that it can swallow stuff and pull it out of the stomach, and you also have some articulation, helping it to be at least a little bit posable and a little bit different as far as the way you can display it from time to time, but not the greatest as far as that goes. However, it is still, again, visually one of the most impressive Tyrannosaurs Mattel has released. So if you are interested in this, I will include a link in the description to where you can purchase it on Target.com right now. So check that link, definitely pick it up, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.